Hello, Freedom Wing. This is Jaclyn Urmey, your Director of Psychological Health, and I am here to talk to you a little bit today about psychological resilience during challenging times. I've been with the Wing now for about 6 years, and I'm a clinical social worker, former Navy Medical Service Corps social worker, and have two overseas tours, one stateside tour, and a combat tour to Afghanistan. For those of you who are not with our wing, but who might be also, watching this, just so you have a little idea about who I am. So psychological resilience is a really important component of comprehensive airman fitness that has been pushed by the Air Force. And today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about it and how it can apply to our current situation. So we are faced with challenges. Some are easy to navigate and some tend to be more challenging. What is currently happening around the world with COVID-19 could probably be described as a fairly big challenge, if not one of the biggest we will be faced with, as several unknowns still lie ahead. Given this unprecedented event we are currently grappling with, several questions arise. How long will this last? Will I still have a job when this is over? Will I get sick? Will a loved one? As the news about the coronavirus pandemic continues to flow and governments and businesses issue closing or work from home directives, stay at home or shelter in place orders are mandated, school-aged children are being homeschooled, and college students are completing their academic careers at home, loved ones in nursing homes not accepting visitors, and some who still have to report to work and possibly expose themselves and loved ones to the cause of all this change. And some of us have lost our jobs because of this. So many of us are experiencing a variety of negative emotions. This is in addition to all the normal stressors of life: financial, relational, medical, occupational, births, deaths, and emotional issues and beyond. So we feel anxiety in response to the uncertainty of the situation, sadness related to losing our daily sources of meaning and joy, and anger at whatever forces are to blame for bringing this upon us. So I want you to take a quick second here just to check in with yourself and see how you are really doing. If you are great, if you're doing pretty well, if you're doing okay, you're hanging in there, if you're really struggling, or if you're in a dark place. If you're in the bottom three of those, the hanging in there, the really struggling, the in a dark place, at the end of this, I'm going to give some resources for you that I'd really like you to reach out to. One of them can be me. And I'll give my number again at the end, but for now, my cell number is 609-286-4249. You can text to that number if you prefer that. But if you're kind of self-checking and you realize you're not doing so well, and you just want to connect with somebody, reach out. And more to come on that. So a lot of us are now geographically separated from people we were used to seeing on a regular basis. For reservists, it could be, I was used to seeing these folks once a month, and other times as we're used to seeing our coworkers and other people daily. One thing I'm noticing is if you're a hugger, which not everybody is, you kind of feel sad that you see people around and you just kind of want to hug people and you can't. Knowing that you can't do that is hard because it's not something we've ever been told you can't do that, but now we are. So one of the biggest things I hear from all sorts of folks, from leadership, even from first sergeants right now, is not having a good idea of how others are really doing. So I wanted to ask you all that question about how you're doing. Take that quick check to get a pulse, because I think it's really important for communication to go both ways whenever possible. It's important to me that each of you watching this feel that your well-being and what your experiences are right now are valid and important. I understand a lot of this communication is going one way with it being virtual. recorded sessions, not always those interactive classes. So again, I really want you to reach out to those resources, shoot me a text, let me know if you're like, hey, just connect with me. Or if you're like, hey, can you check in on me from time to time? Because I do that. I have some folks in the wing that I just call like once a month because they were in a pretty tough place and now they might be doing better, but I can't tell you how much they seem to really appreciate just knowing they're not forgotten about. And I don't want anyone out there to feel that, because this is the kind of experience that can easily make us feel that we're forgotten about. So if you do feel forgotten about, first of all, notice that's normal. Secondly, it means it's time for you to make an effort to connect with somebody, because you don't want to be in that place for too long. It's normal to be unsettled and concerned about the upending of life as we know it. A good quote that I found was, humans find comfort and safety in the predictability of routines, which is a new thing we're being faced with right now. As our lives have dramatically changed overnight, many are struggling with finding ways to deal with this new reality. Some of us are 3 weeks in, some of us have just started, and some of us are more than 3 weeks into this. So COVID-19 can result in feeling some trauma. This can be classified as a traumatic experience depending on how folks are handling it. And it can impact our daily functioning easily, with us experiencing increased levels of stress, traumatic exposure, which is basically being exposed to traumatic events like news, any kind of social media where we're inundated. We have distressing emotional and physical reactions. Some of you might notice like pressure in your chest just thinking about it, and disruption to our daily social and support networks and routines. So much has changed simply because we've unplugged from the world besides technology. We might experience a roller coaster of feelings, and some of them are these. So if you're experiencing any of these, understand these are normal. They just might be more intense than we're used to feeling, and we might be feeling them more frequently. And then we'll get to how we kind of cope with that. But these feelings can be anxiety or fear. Those are definitely brought on by thinking about what the future will hold. Some of us are contingency planners. We really like to know what the next 10 steps of the process are going to be, and we've got backup plans for every single one of them. We can't do that. This is a day-to-day, 2, 4, 6 weeks, who knows? That's hard. And even for people like me who tend to be able to go with the flow, and I can be pretty flexible with routine, it's a challenge because I still like to know a little bit about what can I expect in the future. And right now we don't have that answer. Guilt is a form of self-blame, also very normal as a response right now. This stems from the idea that you might have possibly infected somebody. Have we exposed family members? If you're in the first responder community and you have to work, if your job is your livelihood, but even though you might not be a first responder, you still have to go to work to make ends meet. You can feel guilty about coming home and possibly, hey, what am I bringing back home here? All normal feelings that people are experiencing. We have anger and rage, which is a form of blame. One thing I want to note with this is that I've seen on the news, there's been a lot of anger towards those who might have caused this pandemic. Please be mindful that everybody's in this same boat. We're all trying to get through this together. We're all trying to do the best we can for our families. So be aware if you notice feeling anger or rage towards any specific group of people. Also, we could also be angry towards people who don't seem to practice the same precautions as others. That's been a big thing on the news too, with other states and kind of being late to the game with this, with their stay-at-home orders. But we see it here too, with folks living their lives almost as though nothing's different. And that can be frustrating and cause a lot of anger. Survivor's guilt, a sense that more should have been done to prevent this, and ultimately sadness, which can lead to a depressed state. So all of these emotions are very normal in response to the COVID-19 pandemic right now. So there's a good chance that most people are experiencing more than one of these emotions at a time and in varying degrees. And the importance of knowing and acknowledging how we are feeling, it gives us a starting point from which to jump into ways to cope. If we aren't really aware we're feeling these ways, and we don't really care, it's going to be harder for us to make any improvements or feel like we're living each day to the fullest despite being limited. So given all of the associated unknowns that we're faced with right now, we can tap into our inner strengths and coping strategies to increase our resilience, right? Our ability to bounce back and be even better. All of us have unique characteristics that make us resilient, and we can define resilience as our thoughts, our current behaviors, and actions that promote our personal well-being and mental health. We each have the ability to adapt and recover from stress and adversity. Whether you believe it in yourself or not, you do have that ability. And this can be achieved by implementing effective coping strategies. So now we have this overwhelming roller coaster of emotions that we're on, and we're told, cope with it, pretty much. That's the joy of life, right? Is being thrown in a lot of directions and coming up with these really creative, innovative ways that work only for you. Whether or not they work for others, if they work for you and they're healthy, that's really important. And I feel like that can be kind of like mini goals through life. You've got goal 1, overcome this. Goal 2, overcome this. And the more you overcome, the more you're moving forward towards a direction. So my hope is that each of you find ways to move forward and overcome. So we'll take another pause here. Think about the ways that you cope with stress. Think about the ways you've been coping with the anxiety and the fear and the sadness about the current state that the world is in right now. Here are some ideas. You may do these, you may do none of them, you might do some of them. So we've got read, we play with your kids or a pet. Kids could be a stressor. Journal or write in a diary, like a gratitude journal. Talking to friends and loved ones, virtually somehow connecting with them. Meditation, prayer, and practicing mindfulness. Boy, if there's ever a time to practice mindfulness, slowing down, being present in the moment, this is it. Some of you, hobbies. A lot of us are exercising or wanting to. Some of us are partaking in telehealth counseling sessions, which is a great idea. Military One Source offers great services, and I'll get to that a little more at the end. But some negative ways we might be coping right now, maybe we're overeating. There have been some memes out about that where there's the picture of the lady at the fridge and she's really skinny, and then it's like, 1 month later, she's bigger. So, there is humor we can find in a lot of these things to help us kind of get through and break the monotony of the intensity. But be mindful that eating is a way of coping as well. Drinking and using other substances are also unhealthy ways of coping. So just admit to yourself the way that you're coping. You don't have to talk about it with anybody. Just be aware of what you do to cope. And there are other things that you can do, absolutely. I just wanted to list a few, good and the bad, that are the reality of what can help us through this. And sadly, if you are comfort eating or drinking alcohol more than normal, or to an unhealthy degree, or partaking in other substances, that is something that you're going to want to curb and get assistance with. And I wouldn't wait for that. Many organizations are available now to help people if they're having a tough time and coping in those ways. So one coping strategy that we can use to address some of the stress we're experiencing is the practice of self-care. And some of you have probably heard this a lot over the past couple of weeks. Self-care is attending to your own challenges, be it medical or mental. It's focusing on you. It's putting yourself first for a few minutes each day. We can complete self-care measures that have us first attend to you, your fears, your needs. What are these for you? It starts with caring about yourself, in addition to your job, your family, and other people. We must be clear and satisfied with how we are helping others, but self-care comes first. And this is tough for our medical folks that are out there. How are they implementing self-care when they're working, double shifts and there's just not enough time off? It's really important for them to find those ways to break away, to just kind of get themselves centered, to be able to continue with facing the challenges of life right now, because this will eventually even out. Life will eventually not be as unpredictable and unknown as it is right now. Eventually, however long it will take, we will get back into some sort of an unpredictable routine. What are we doing to help us until we can get there again? So some other ways to cope are a little bit cognitive. If you're kind of a clinical minded person, we think cognitive behavioral, right? The way you think impacts the way you behave. Thoughts impact behaviors. So one of those ways is that accepting your negative emotions. It's important to acknowledge that a lot of anxious thoughts and emotions will show up during this time, and to accept them rather than try to push them away or escape them, which is what eating and drinking and doing other substances tends to do for us. The same goes for sadness stemming from the loss of our regular ways of living, worry about the lack of supplies, or apprehension about kids getting cabin fever. That's because research has shown that avoidance of such emotions will only make them stronger and longer lasting. A clinical phrase is avoidance perpetuates trauma. So the longer you avoid a traumatic situation and you experience symptoms regarding that traumatic situation, the more long-standing those symptoms are going to be, and the greater those symptoms will impact your functioning in life over the course of your life. So noticing negative emotions, thoughts, and physical sensations as they come up, look into them with curiosity, not just saying, I feel this way, whatever, but I feel this way, why do I feel this way? Describing them without judgment, not being frustrated at yourself for feeling these things, and then letting them go. Feelings should come without judgment. We can't stop the initial feeling we have regarding pretty much anything, but we can change the feeling depending on ways of coping with it once we notice that it's happening. So if you initially feel mad or you initially feel sad, don't judge yourself for that. Just say, hey, I feel this way. Oh, now what can I do about that? Because I don't want to feel this way. I want to be happier. I want to feel peaceful. So this is, in essence, mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness, which has consistently been linked to good psychological health. So if you'd like to practice some mindfulness skills, you should check out the Joint Base MDL Community Support Coordinator Facebook page. There are 4 videos of guided relaxation skills available for your viewing pleasure on there. There's deep breathing. I think there's like a guided meditation. There's a couple other really cool meditation skills that you can check out. And I think they're only about 5 minutes long. And that will be on the Joint Base, or JBMDL, Community Support Coordinator Facebook page. Another way to cope is, drumroll, create new routines. I think we're all pretty good at that by now. It's important to establish some structure, predictability, and a sense of purpose with these new routines. It's so easy for every day to bleed into the next day and for us to forget what day it is. How many of us have already forgotten what day today is? It's happened a couple times for me. So I try to be mindful of the day, mindful of the time. And this is good for adults, and it's really crucial for children to stick to regular wake up, grooming, and meal times. Now, weekends, whatever goes, sometimes can be a good thing once in a while, but during the work week, trying to kind of keep a regular routine. So where and how everyone works and plays at home should be planned to a degree. And while understanding that we need to be flexible and adapt as needed. So, sticking to the same routine every day might not work for some, might work really well for others. And finally, we have reflect, relate, and reframe. So it might help to realize that these trying times offer several avenues for psychological growth and an opportunity to deepen our relationships with folks in our home, in our household, and beyond. You can start a family book club or watch all the Harry Potter movies together. When else will you all be home to do that? It's kind of a sobering thought that a lot of us are kind of forced to be with each other. And the first A couple of weeks might be kind of rocky, but eventually if you hit a groove and you get into a routine, you find that you really are developing stronger relationships with your family members. This can be a time for couples who may have had issues to actually kind of bond in different ways, where the pressure of everything outside of their relationship is just gone. And now they can finally just be present with each other. Families who have a lot of distance because of work, if you are able to work from home, and this is under the presumption that you're all home together. This isn't the case for everybody. But I think for 60% of America or New Jersey, I read a statistic that said about the mileage in New Jersey has decreased by 60%. So most folks, over 50% of folks in New Jersey are staying home on a more regular basis now, which is huge. But you can use this time to really bond with your family in ways that you just haven't ever been forced to do or had the opportunity to do. And it's tough because we think of it as being a forced thing, but hopefully eventually we can reflect on that and look back and reframe it in a different way and say, yeah, maybe I didn't have the choice to not be apart, but boy, I'm really glad we had the chance to be together. And as I mentioned before, this crisis kind of offers an unexpected chance to check in with yourself. I think this is an opportunity for slowing down and reflecting on life. What brings you meaning when the noise of modern life quiets down? Have your priorities reflected what truly matters to you? As the unusual pursuits of status and money are put on hold, where do you find your life purpose? I'm hearing from some folks who commute to work. They're actually starting to question if they want to go back to those jobs because they have so much more time with their family now. Is it worth commuting up to the city an hour and a half or 2 hours every day? Maybe just to kiss your kids goodnight. Is it worth the money? For some it is. Some of us need to do that. We don't have that flexibility to make that decision and say, oh no, I can work closer from home and still make ends meet. But for some of us, we can. So this opportunity isn't just for folks to, think about, can't wait to get back to the norm. Some folks are looking at this like, wow, I'm really glad this happened because I want a new norm. And finally, keep in mind that experiencing stress and negative emotions can have positive consequences. Studies show that people who go through very difficult life experiences can emerge from them with a stronger sense of psychological resilience, rekindled relationships, as I've mentioned, and a renewed appreciation of life. Some describe starting to live more fully and purposefully. One thing I've noticed is that with my family, we do have, distance, being that my husband and I are both working out of the house, and we have a child as well. So with us all being home, I'm like, wow, I feel like as a family, we've grown a lot in the last couple of weeks. And I'm hearing other people say that too. I hope that's you. I hope you're in that boat. If you're not, it's okay. This is going to be so drastically different for a lot of people. So with care and planning, we too can stay psychologically strong during this pandemic, and perhaps even grow from this as a transformative experience. So really great resources for you all are available actually on the Joint Base website. I do want to point you in that direction because I was pretty impressed with what I saw them put out as far as resources go. Now you're going to see something similar to this. If you go to www.jbmdl.jb.mil/coronavirus, and you can replay this because this is recorded. You scroll down on the right side of the page to COVID-19 impact resources, and it's going to open up a 3-slide, which I have black and white because I forgot to change the setting on my printer. 2 slides on this page and 1 slide on the next. But you're going to see all these really awesome resources that they put together. It's pretty outstanding. I'll review a few of them with you because I think these are going to be helpful to you as we go through this. Military One Source is going to be the biggest push of a resource that I give to anybody. Military One Source can be reached through 1-800-342-9647, or you go to militaryonesource.mil. They are offering telehealth availability for children and adults. So if you're going through a tough time psychologically, mental, health-wise, and you want to have some counseling for it, and you're connected to the services, please contact them. You do get 12 sessions per person per issue. And it's right now it's over the phone as it can be normally with Military One Source. They would do in-person counseling sessions as well as telehealth, but now everything is telehealth. So please contact them. There's a military crisis line. This is for those of you who are in that really dark place and you need to connect with somebody immediately. 1-800-273-8255. The COVID-19 impact resources of the Joint Base MDL website also has financial aid services, employee assistance services, domestic abuse victim services, and civilian services for those of our civilians who are out there. There's a ton of listed available resources for those who are federal civilians as well. The Joint Base MDL website even has a resiliency page. So when you get on that jbmdl.jb.mil, you can scroll down, you can find even more stuff. This goes on and on, the resources they have listed, which is so fantastic. Connecting with the Family Advocacy Program, clinical support for clinicians, pregnant women resources, parents with young children, military families resources. They have resources for child welfare professionals, tips on technology, and victim advocate and domestic abuse support. So if there is anything that I can do to offer you any assistance at this time, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, 609-286-4249. You can email me as well at jaclyn for Jaclyn, .urmey, URMEY, at us.af.mil. However you're connected to this broadcast, whether you're a military member, a civilian, or you're like, I just happened upon this is cool, you can still reach out. I'm available for anybody who needs any assistance. My goal is to connect you and to help you through this. I really want folks to come out of this on the other side better. I feel like I want all of those of us who are in the reserve wing as civilians and or as reservists or ARTs to feel like we could stay connected with everybody through this, and that we didn't really skip a beat when we got back together. I don't want people to feel awkward or weird when you're like, wow, I haven't seen you in 3 months. What's going on? I want us to come back together and we say, we know exactly what's been going on. Let's pick up and continue. So that happens with two-way communication. That happens with people checking in on each other. And that happens with just showing people that you still care, even though you might be a little preoccupied right now. And that's okay. I'll be honest, I think most people are really preoccupied with their own lives right now, as you should be, because that should be the focus until you hit a stride and you have the energy and the capacity to reach out to other people. Some of us, it takes longer to hit that stride and to get into that routine, whereas others, one day is all it took, and now they're out delivering meals and shopping for people and all that. God bless everybody on either end of the spectrum, because that's what makes us all who we are, and that's what we are comprised of. That's our demographic, so to speak, of people. Wherever you fall in, that is perfectly fine. So I hope that this was helpful in providing some encouragement to you, normalizing some of these things, helping you to manage your psychological health at this time. So please let me know if there's anything further I can do to assist you, and hopefully maybe we'll do this again. Thank you so much.